Welcome to Simply Sheppy, your community podcast which aims to create and enhance connections within the community to build a better Sheppy.
Welcome to the podcast, Keely Woolley from Metamorforsuccess. How you doing? You all right?
I'm fantastic, and it's nice to be here.
Good, welcome. So we met through a call about the Sheppy Business Networking, and you came on the Mindset Reset, and then we've spoke about networking marketing, the podcast, and you're on. So the first question is a background one, a bit about you, how you've got what you've got to. Mm-hmm. So how did you end up doing Keely Woolley from Metamorphosis?
Yeah. Well, for start off, in 2020, having been working with a corporate world for over 23 years with the same company, I was made redundant, strategic redundancy. And I'm not going to lie, it was a challenging period because I had been working with the same company, as I say, for 23 years. I was in an executive role. I was actually responsible for creating the new organisation that I was supposed to be heading up. And unfortunately, the person that I would have been reporting into, a younger fella, decided that he was going to recruit externally someone that he'd been working with. So I then had to go through the process of putting one of my seven of my team at risk, and also at the same time, I literally crashed and burned. So it was a bit of a challenging period. And as I say, when you've been working for a company so long, I mean, I was a program delivery director. I'd worked in all parts of the company. I'd worked in sort of across Europe and managed sort of big teams. And, you lose your identity effectively swiftly overnight. So,
So is that one of those things that was the worst thing at the time, but maybe the best thing that could have happened? Or
yeah, I mean, bizarrely, the actual redundancy side of it, I'd actually prepared myself over the Christmas period. I mean, so much so I sort of planned to go to Canada for my 50th at the end of the year.
Oh, right, yeah.
Unfortunately, it was COVID year, so it was not yet. My 50th year was not a good birthday year,
Yeah,
I have to say. The redundancy wasn't the problem. It was really the way in which it was managed. And because it wasn't managed in a very productive way, that's what put my sort of head in a bit of a tailspin. And the experience was not very positive, although arguably through my recovery period, I realised it was nothing to do with the redundancy. It was a culmination of things that had been occurring throughout my life. And unfortunately, I fell into many of the traps that you fall into, particularly as an executive. The further you go up the ladder, actually, you fall further into the traps and the behaviours, which is now why I teach a lot of the things that I teach. So it was a big journey of discovery.
So that was born from that experience and what you went through, which is where you developed. And you also, so you're born and bred Sheppy?
No, I moved to the island when I was 9 years old.
Right.
I was born in Sidcup, Blackfen, but I do consider the island my home. I don't want to move. I do have intentions to have a retreat or something like that somewhere else, but I definitely, it would be a retreat because I want to coach and train people at this location, but a family going there. But the island is where my heart is, and I'm very protective, actually.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get into that because the business networking and helping in the community stuff is all linked in with what we've spoke about and this that, and the other. So you've gone through this transition, but not by choice, and this is created. So just explain Metamorforsuccess. Just explain what's that.
So Metamorforsuccess. So anybody that would know me, I have a bit of an obsession around dragonflies. They're a bit of a spirit animal.
Nice.
I love everything about them. I love the colours. I love the fact that they live life with purpose and passion. Every single moment counts. Every second counts. And they live it with intention. So when I was trying to discover effectively a brand and identity for my business. I was trying to do something that actually directly related to what I'm doing with coaching and training, which is about new transformations, new paradigms, living life with purpose, having a why, and being passionate about whatever you do. And I went through this whole process for quite a long while. And then
trying to pick what you wanted to...
Yeah, just to make it right. And I was actually on a call with a lady from Canada who'd gone through a similar experience with me in terms of she shut down at work and, she had a burnout and that. And whilst we was talking about it, she said, well, why don't you do something with dragonflies? And I was like, how can I do something with dragonflies? And we looked it up, and it is, effectively, when you look it up, sorry, it's all about new paradigms, new beginnings, transformation, all those kind of things, everything that I've mentioned. And it also had, obviously, because they go through sort of metamorphosis, so they go through transition. Yeah. And I was like,
done.
Yeah, and that was it. And as I actually said it, my face lit up, and I was like, "That's it.
It's nice, isn't it?
That's what it is."
Yeah.
And I just had that moment, and as I say, obviously slightly altered it, and it's a play on words, but ultimately that's what it's all about.
So what is it, and who does it help?
So what it is it's a 4-stage process to effectively, it's the Freedom Transformation Formula. And ultimately it says what's on the tin. It is being able to help people to have a fulfilling and successful life, but without compromising their health. Because that's so important to me that, you can have the life that you deserve. You can do whatever you set your heart out to do. And as long as you do what's your purpose, but you need to ensure that you are taking care of your health, because without your health, none of it matters. It's irrelevant. You could have £1 million tomorrow, but that's not going to make you happy. It might be a temporary thing, but it's certainly not going to give you a healthy life.
So we take it for granted, don't we?
Yes.
Until something goes wrong, and then you think, I just want to be better.
Yeah.
Just want to be well, and none of the other shit matters.
Yeah.
Until you get well, and then you just take it for granted.
Yeah,
it's interesting. So those sections on there. So that where does the health come under that?
So the 4 stages of it. So there's actually, I would say 3 parts of them for sure. So the starting point of it, reset, which is effectively that it's creating awareness for where you are in relation to stress and things like burnout, because quite often we're not aware of stress or burnout and anxiety. It builds up over time, and for many people that I know, is that they don't even know they're in that space until it actually happens. I am a prime example of that. I didn't know I was burnt out until I actually crashed and burned. And it wasn't until I looked back at it over time that I then go, well, actually, that all makes sense. And so now what I do is help people to recognise what their key drivers for stress are, what are causing those kind of things to happen, creating the awareness of it. And it can be all different things for different reasons. And some will only cause it for moments, but other things can cause it to be extended over time, or effectively you're going to DEFCON 9 in 0 to 60 because you're in that anxiety state. And when you can create and recognise and understand it, then you can do something about it. It's that thing of that moment where instead of being in that, as I call the emotional monkey, you've got that moment where you go, hang on a minute, let's just stop. Let's just take a step back. And you say, quite often you can't see the wood from the trees. And when you take that step back, you start seeing it from a logical mind. So you can do something about it and take control about the situation. You've got 100% control rather than that emotional space. Sorry, I've got a drink of it.
Yeah, so that baggage though, I remember like when my kids were little, we used to go, so a big one for us was Legoland or Centre Parks, and they'd want to piggyback and you'd be walking around for ages with them, and then suddenly you'd put them down and you'd be like, oh God, I'm so free. And we don't realise that stuff is bit by bit, bit by bit,
Yeah.
bit by bit, until you get to 2020 and you go
Yeah,
through
and you
redundancy and you
yeah,
realise
yeah,
that that's all like got you on your knees sort of
yeah,
thing. It's
yeah, yeah,
you like to say, it's a calibration, and you don't
yeah,
know what zero. You forget what zero is
yeah,
um,
absolutely.
until
Yeah,
someone comes and does the work with you. So
yeah,
that
and
resets the first.
yeah, and a part of that as well is also, understanding what your indicators for stress are, and what do I mean by that? That's that. You think things like your headaches, the brain fog, getting rashes, the problems like IBS and stomach problems, or aching joints, inflammation joints, not sleeping enough. It's all those things, but quite often we see them as all individual things in isolation, and you just dismiss it. You dismiss it. It's rather like when, how many of you get like I've had that frozen shoulder, and what you see is people, instead of going to do something about it, they start trying to put their jacket on like an idiot. Like they're spinning around in circles and
Yeah.
they can't lift it up, and they're in so much pain, they end up stop doing the things they like sports activities and all those kind of things, instead of going to do something about it. And the interesting thing is that if our car's not doing something right, we'll go and get it maintained, we'll service it, we'll look after it. But we don't do that with ourselves. And when you start understanding what all these individual things are, then you can go, actually, this is showing up quite often, so why is that actually happening? And again, it's understanding those patterns that are associated to it, so you can start doing something about it.
Yeah, I think that the other thing with people is that they'll go and get their car fixed because they identify the need for the freedom of having a car,
Yeah.
but they don't identify that for us. It's funny when you were talking, so I'm doing every Monday, I'm doing a 36-hour fast, so
Yeah.
from Sunday night to Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning I wake up and I don't want to eat.
Mm.
I don't actually feel great. It's like, oh, I don't feel bloated. I can do my top button up.
Yeah.
Like, it's like,
Yeah.
and then you didn't realise how much I've been sitting with that sort of bloatedness from this, that, and the other, sugar and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's it's. I think the difficulty is always getting people to see that potential, because most people, the doctor gets you from unwell to okay.
Yeah.
They don't get you to amazing.
Yeah.
They
Because
just
they're
get you
putting a plaster on
to
you.
not unwell.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. So
Yeah.
who gets you to from not unwell or unwell to absolutely amazing?
Yeah.
And this is this another level stuff that people can invest in.
Yeah. So and that actually takes it to the next level. So obviously the first step is that reset. But like anything, you can find out what all the things are and what's causing it. But effectively, you can't drink from an empty cup. So if you haven't got the resources or the energy to be able to do anything about it, then you just stay in that place. So the next stage of the process is re-energize, and that is all about re-injecting vitality and energy back into your life, which again is that learning to actually stop, slow down, being able to learn the art of gratitude. And things like gratitude is that what we don't do quite often is that we're not thankful for the things that we've actually got around us. We're so busy racing towards our end goal that we're not actually enjoying the moment. We're not being present. We're not taking time out for ourselves. We're not actually celebrating our own successes. We're really good at promoting other people and saying, do you know what, you've done a fantastic job there. But how often do we say that for ourselves? And it's really positive when you do those things. Then there's also being able to do enhancement, and the enhancement is around, understanding what we effectively eat and consume. And when I talk about consume, that's not just what we put in our mouth, it's what we put on our skin. It's also what's going in our eyes, because all of those things impact us in terms of our gut health. And if our gut health isn't good, it affects our brain. If our brain isn't good, it affects your gut health. And if your gut health isn't healthy, it affects your skin, which is, that knock-on effect. So everything you consume inside and out has an impact on you, which is where, from the health side of it, which is why I actually work with a company called Arbon, which will sell their products, because everything that they sell are botanical products that are based on healthy living inside and out. And they're halal, they're kosher, they're vegan. They're one of these B corporations that are ensuring that not only their people thrive, but their community thrives. They feed money back to youth organisations. Everything they stand for is about sustainability and ethics and growth and everything like that. But everything they do is also to ensure that we have a healthy life. And I've never been so passionate about a company before, but because it's so directly related to this second stage, I've formed it as part of the whole process, So if people are struggling with certain areas, when I'm actually listening to what they're saying, I say, well, actually, this is something I think would help you. And going back to your point about doctors quite often, they're like pill poppers. It's like going through McDonald's and they're just handing out these pills, but they're not getting to the root cause of what's causing you the problem in the first place. And if you can actually get to the root cause, you can then make sure that you're concentrating on what's right for you health-wise, whether it's exercise, whether it is doing fasting, whether it is taking certain supplements, whether it is that you need like B12. My husband has a B12 deficiency. He didn't know. He's had this since 2017. Because of COVID, it got dismissed, and he then was still suffering last year. So bad, he was almost catatonic. And his chest was hurting and everything like that. And then after going to hospital and everything like that, we eventually found out that he had B12 deficiency. But no one wanted to treat him with it. And, it's something for life. You can't get rid of it. And it causes pernicious anemia. And that's where your body starts shutting down. And because your body's shutting down, it's not functioning in all levels, which is then going to affect your brain, affect your gut, and all those kind of things. So that's where we then started going down the process of him having these products that's helped improve his life. So much so that, one of the products that he's using, he's been what I call a dream sleep since 2017. He's actually woken up. For the first time, he's woken up. He's not walking around in this catatonic state. We finally see a future for ourselves because he's functioning.
And is that diet, purely diet?
So combination of it is the diet, also with the Arbon products, where we've got one that's three products we have, which is Green Gut Glow, which concentrates. It's one of them's full of like fruits and veggies, like 36 fruits and veggies. So it's got a pack full of vitamins and minerals. There's another one that's focused on gut health. There's another one that's Skin Elixir, which is helps you generate natural collagen. So it's good for your hair, your nails, your skin, and all those kind of things. And we also introduced something that's called like a dream tea, isn't it? Dreams infusion. And he has it an hour before he goes to bed, along with this inner calm. And he's now gone from having like the worst possible sleep to his sleep has gone from 55% quality to 85 to 90 plus quality. An immediate response. And of course, when you're sleeping better, that means that you function, because your sleep is the most important thing that you ever do. Anything beyond even what you eat and drink, because if your sleep isn't right, it impacts everything. It impacts, you start eating badly, it impacts your, so what happens, it breaks down your muscle content as well, which means that although you look like you're losing weight, you're not. What you're doing is losing all the muscle strength, but all of the fat is staying there. So it's all sitting around your heart or around your parts that you shouldn't have. On top of that, it's then going to have an impact on your libido. It's going to have an impact on your mental functioning. It impacts your relationships and all those kind of things. So this one thing that he's introduced to his life has literally changed his life, like within overnight. So that's something that's really important as well. And then one of the other things is learning, the art of meditation and being able to slow down and all those kind of things. So that's the second pillar, which is, for me, is amazing. Because you can't drink from an empty cup, can you?
So this is that's all part of the re-energize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second pillar.
Yeah, I think I don't think people realise that self-care and how much is involved in that. We charge our phones up and and make sure that that's good, the car's good, and this, that, and the other, and there's so much more we can do with that. But that, I think, again, a lot of it comes back to that self-abuse versus self-care. We don't put ourselves first, do we?
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things that I've developed is called, I call it the wheel of misfortune, and brackets miss and then fortune, because on the left hand side is that you've got the wheel of misfortune, which is all of the things that you started to talk about, like self-sabotage, you're eating and drinking poorly, in some cases substance abuse, and all the things that we shouldn't do, not sleeping properly at night, not facing conflict, not being vulnerable with people, doing too much social media on our phones, constantly having it, addicted to ourselves, technology, and all of these things, and it's on repeat. And when you're doing all of these things, it impacts. So anybody that's familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of and it's just come
Maslow's hierarchy.
But all of those things, is ultimately about you reaching your full potential. But if you don't have any of those things in space, if you haven't got the energy, you can't drink for an empty cup, it impacts all of those things. You can't put a roof over your head because you're not functioning on all levels. You're not able to build relationships, meaningful relationships. You're not able to develop yourself. You're not able to reach your full potential, because all of those things on the left-hand side of the wheel of fortune, you're just doing it on repeat.
I used to have a cheese plant in my old house, and we realised that it wasn't growing because the cats were peeing in it. and then when we stopped them doing it, we put pebbles and stuff around it, and it thrived. But you don't realise that sometimes what you're putting in is just that crap.
Yeah.
And then you're wondering why you don't feel great. You don't feel
And and effectively, if you completely reverse out everything that you got on the left hand side and you put it into sort of what's called the wheel of fortune, then that means that you can start reaching your full potential. And I'm not talking about becoming a millionaire. It's about, when I talk about being fulfilled and successful, it's successful in your life, in who you are, that you're doing what you love, you're thriving in what you do, you're enjoying your life. And it doesn't matter whether it brings massive financial success. The point is whether it's bringing you freedom. And it's freedom in your life to enjoy life the way you should, because you only have one crack of the whip, and you've got to enjoy it, live it healthily, and live it happy.
So we've re-energised.
Yeah.
And then is it reflect?
Yeah. So the next one is a reflect, and that's really about introspection. It's being able to look within yourself, because there's so many things that we have that hold us back. That little voice that whispers in our head that says, you're not good enough. And I know this is a phrase that you use as well, and where it's like, so what is good enough? And the thing is that when we keep on telling ourselves we can't do something, we've got limiting beliefs, that self-doubt, that not able to take calculated risks, lack self-confidence, all those kind of things. That holds us back, and that does limit us when we can do so much. It doesn't matter what your background is, we can all achieve success. I don't come from a massive sort of rich family or anything like that. I come from a humble background. My mum and dad were working class. We had a little shop. You remember our little shop at the corner. I mean, we've all had to work really hard. But the point is that anybody can achieve anything. I came out of school with no real education or exams. I didn't succeed in it. I was never good at exams. It wasn't until I actually joined the company that I worked with that they saw my potential, and I started learning and thriving within them. But it was because I put in the effort and I wanted to thrive that I kept on trying. But nevertheless, I still had some of those limiting beliefs, the self-doubt, because you have it programmed into you. If someone tells you you're not good enough, then you believe it eventually.
Yeah, I think that's that environment that comes up as well. So if you're in an environment where a company wants to help you thrive, they'll put that structure and mentorship around you where it's then the narrative is then you can do it because other people have done it. But if you're not in that environment, And that's one of the things I think with bringing us together in the business network and also so locally is that potential, people seeing that in themselves and not staying limited because of X, Y, and Z.
And that's an important thing as well, is that, and I'm slightly going off piste here, but if anybody has ever heard of someone called Joe Dispenza, and he's massively into how you can rewire yourself, because we do have programmed beliefs, and our personalities become fixed by the time we're 35 years old. And if we're always doing the same thing that we've always done, we're never going to achieve anything. It's like Einstein's great statement is, if you keep on doing the same thing over and over again, expect different results. I mean, that's the definition of madness, isn't it? And that's fact. And if we're always staying with the same personality, we're never going to change. We're never going to thrive. And the only way we can change is by learning new things, doing different things, surrounding ourselves with other people that are going to help lift you up. Because when you see other people thriving and lift you up, you go, actually, there is that potential that I can do that. You see possibilities. But if you're surrounding yourself by people that are constantly in that, woe is me, life is rubbish, I'm never going to be able to achieve anything, I'm not very good, I'm rubbish, then you're always going to have that feeling inside because, it's programmed into you. But you can change that dynamic. And it doesn't matter what background you come from. I've had many people that are within my network that have come from places like Romania or Bulgaria or Poland, all of that lot, that come over to the UK with literally zero suitcase. But because of their mindset and their belief is that I am going to achieve something, they have changed their whole lives. And not only have they changed them, they're 7-8 figure people because of that mindset that they've got.
Yeah, because I know you talk about purpose and the why.
Yeah.
And for me, like linking to engineering, like those links. So we've got some lifts at Canary Wharf that go 50 floors, but we program them to 20 floors. And then we've changed the narrative to say you only go 20 floors.
Yeah.
But they have the potential of doing 50, but they haven't sold the floors yet. So it's like, no, you're just 20 floors.
Yeah.
And every lift has got 99 floors in the software, but most lifts are like 2-3 floors. And then come back to that engineering and that power, that person that comes from that country that's got that big enough why. It's the same as increasing the power in a lift or a car.
Yeah.
That you've got a tractor and that's going to go through whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas if you've got a moped, like it's going to be wheel spinning, and you're not going to get anywhere. It's just that finding that power because those people that have this might be a good segue into why.
Yeah.
That is enough that they moved, didn't they?
Yeah. It's exactly that. So first of it, it's that unlocking the limiting beliefs to see what your potential is. But then when you rediscover your why, and this is really important for me, is that when you discover it or rediscover it, because quite often we fall into careers, don't we? Unless you've got a vocation where you want to be a footballer or a dancer, an artist or something like that, many of us fall out of school and we literally fall into our jobs because we're like, well, I don't know what I want to be. You don't know what you don't know until you've actually experienced it.
The amount of people that used to come up and say they want to be a lift engineer because their mum says they've got to get a trade.
Yeah.
And then you realise, I used to have people and I realised that within 5 minutes they should be in sales.
Yeah.
Not stuck in a lift shaft on their own because they just want to talk to everyone and you find that there's that alignment with it.
Yeah. And that's what it's about, because when you know what it is that you love, when you can discover that, and a lot of what I do with that is around storytelling. It's trying to get to know what it is that really makes them tick as an individual, and you're asking them, and they are quite challenging questions sometimes. Sometimes there's lots of laughter, sometimes there can be tears, but there's things that you pick out from all of it that you can see the patterns that form within it. And as you say, there's certain things that you go, do you know what? Actually, this person really does like being surrounded by lots of people. They like talking to, they talk to dead bodies.
Yeah.
They listen
Yeah,
to them.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but then there's others that, that it's just not their thing. They're real massive introverts. And that's like the worst thing on possible earth. They'd rather be locked in a room and doing something that's on their own.
That's
But
Ben editing the videos in his room. He'd rather do that than
yeah,
being on like,
but if that's what he's passionate about,
Yeah.
that's great. And the thing is that when you do what you love, when you find it, it drives and motivates you every day. It gives you that energy. It gives you that lift, because you could go through all those 3 steps that I've mentioned, but if you haven't found what it is that you love, what gives you that drive and motivation, you gradually start slipping back into those areas again, because you sort of go on that on repeat cycle again. Or as I like to describe it, it's like everything is like Groundhog Day, and you're like, oh, here I go again, same old thing,
I was
day
going to
in,
break
day
into
out.
song then. You haven't found what you're looking for. What's that? I don't know what it was.
I'm not going to jump into singing a song.
Someone can put that in the notes. Find what you're looking for.
Yeah, and it's true, and I'll use an example. Okay, so obviously I'm really passionate about what I'm doing here, but as an example, last year, sadly, I lost my brother last year, John, who, he was everything to me. It was an amazing guy. Anybody that knows him, it was a fantastic guy. Loads of life, loads of passion, loads of energy. Now, I, obviously, for my brother's first birthday this year, I wanted to have something for my mum and dad, because you should never lose your children. It's the worst possible thing ever. And I wanted them to have something to wake up to on his birthday, something to think about. So I had 11 days before my brother's birthday, I decided to write a book, as you do.
Yeah.
So,
not cut the grass.
Yeah, cut the grass, but I'll write a book instead. Yeah. So on the Friday I started writing.
Bake a cake, you could bake a cake, that doesn't easy on it.
Yeah, but we're all on keto, so we wouldn't have enjoyed it.
I'll write a book, yeah.
So I started that on the Friday, and I finished it the next Wednesday. And it was all first on my first pillar, the stress-free risk resolution, but also about my story as well. And I sent it to one of the guys that I know that's really good at getting it all published and through Amazon. And over the weekend, he got it all approved by Amazon. Is it perfect? No. Has it got mistakes? Yes. Do I mind? No, because imperfectly perfect is better than no action at all. Mm-hmm. But I did it on the Wednesday. He had it all sorted and published by the Sunday. Monday it was released, and on my brother's birthday, it was a #1 bestselling book. And my mum and dad had that book to open up on the Tuesday for him, and it's dedicated to my brother, because his last words to me were, "Continue to make me proud, sis. You're going to rock this world." And every single day, that's my motivation. And I stare to the side of me, because he's with me all of the time, providing that motivation. And where am I going with this? I wrote that because I had a purpose, and it come from a space of love, and it meant something to me. So I just stopped doing everything else, and I just focused on that one thing to make sure it happened.
Powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this week, what was it? Not this weekend, previous weekend, I won Author of the Year with the Speaker Academy I'm with for that book.
Nice.
So it was another great thing that come out of it.
So and you wouldn't have done that if you hadn't have got made redundant and gone through the you'd gone through. Yeah. It's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that comes back to that rediscover. I mean, that reflecting and getting that book and getting that done and finding that why. Again, I think that's the same as those people that come over from another country with nothing. There's a reason, and it gets them to move, doesn't it? And that can be positive. Yeah. And that can be from a negative, can't it? You know. Yeah. It's the same. We had a lift once that didn't move, and we had everything coming up power-wise, but we didn't have a neutral for the motor. And it's the same in life. I think you can be moved by, you've got to do your taxes, otherwise you're going to go to jail. Or you can be moved by, I want to do my taxes so I can get a rebate or whatever. But they still move you, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's rediscover?
So that is it. So the rediscover is about essentially helping people to rediscover their why. Because as you turned around and said, if you don't have a direction, if you've got nowhere to go, you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. Most people are in the what and the how all the time. Busy fools. They're just functioning. They're, going into work, doing the same thing day in, day out, not enjoying it. And effectively every single day seems like Groundhog Day. And even companies, it's the same thing. Quite often, people will set up a company and they lose sight of why they did it in the first instance. They're just sort of busy fools just functioning a company. It means that they lose sight of it and they lose their passion for the business. Or as individuals, when you work for a company, if you're not actually working for them because you're doing what you love and why you do it, or you're not clear about what the company's why is, then you're not clear about why you're actually going into work every day and doing what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And the problem with many companies where they lose sight of their why, it means everyone else within the organisation is not clear about it as well. So they're busy fools. So everybody's going off doing a what and how, but not what they're supposed to be really doing and what they're focusing on. And that's what that's all about.
So I've been having art lessons, and for the last sort of year and a bit, I've been drawing, and in drawing, with some architectural ones that I've done, you have these lines of perspective. Now you don't see them on the page, but they are there.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're quite a way off, but they have a point.
Yeah.
And you've got to remember the point. That's why I write down 4 questions so I can remember the point of what we're talking about, because I lose track.
Go off,
and it's a bit like that if you look at some of my pictures, like you can see that a little bit wonky. I think Matt's lost the point of perspective in that drawing.
Yeah.
And it's just a little bit, it's not right.
Yeah.
And it's the same, I think, when you wake up, if you haven't got a point to the day, or a point to why you're putting the bins out, because you don't want to put the bins out, but you want to have a clean house and be a good dad, or, so that point of perspective, I think, for the why. And this is where, with Lee, who does this, and all of us really on the community connections side of with Think and Believe and the podcast studios, is at the top of Maslow's hierarchy, the final part, so giving back and creativity are the 2 final bits of that sort of freedom and that evolution, or and I think that giving back element, you talked about community stuff, is a good why and purpose. Yeah, I've been watching, there's a documentary about the apes and how they all have a purpose in their in their community. Yeah, and if they haven't got one, or it's part of the hierarchy of how they establish a community. And I think this disconnect with society is the problem, and the reconnect is with something in what you do in society. Because you mentioned stuff about community stuff there. What was the...
So for anybody that's not aware, is that, obviously since COVID, burnout and stress and anxiety has more than doubled globally. And unfortunately, the island has suffered quite significantly compared to the rest of the UK, particularly of things like depression and anxiety. Then also, it's also had an impact on employment, and even if there is employment, we're sort of one of the lower ends of sort of salary and things like that, which is obviously going to have an impact on people's self-belief and what their opportunities are, and trying to get people out there. So I earlier in the year, I did a project which was funded by Minster Parish Council, where they effectively funded a programme where it was given access to 12 people from the community. So not everybody can invest in the programme that I'm doing. So what I wanted to do is be able to enable them to have access to what I'm training in the stress-free risk resolution. So they was getting it for free, but the community obviously funded it, but not as they wouldn't have paid as much as they would done if it was through my programme. And the reason why it was so good is that you had people from all walks of life, very, very different. So some of them were people that were quite successful people, but still trapped. And then there was other individuals which, you know, they were suffering things like burnout and stress, and they wanted the tools and strategies to be able to help them. So I did this 12-week program with them. And it was such an amazing project. Now, and interestingly, it didn't get as many people sign up for it as we would have liked. And I think sometimes that's because some people are not ready. There are some people who don't think that they're right for it. You get all of those objections, you know, and sometimes people don't sign up because quite often, if they resolve that problem, it means that it's actually revealing a problem that they they don't want to fix. That's a whole topic in itself. It's sometimes an excuse, but it's because they're not prepared. Because if they
move the curtains,
they've
got to step out.
they've got to step out, and also it means that they might have to do something that they don't want to do. And they know that they've got to do it. So it's all of those kind of things. But anyway, those that did participate in it and attend it, and I mean, it's actually been a really positive exercise, and now we've become really great friends as well. So quite often we get together and we go out walking with each other, because one of the things that I used to do is that sometimes we go, look, let's just step away from this room. Let's just go on a walk together. So we're still processing and training, but we're going out together on a walk. And it was really good because some of them didn't actually go out walking that often, and it's encouraged them to do it. And they love doing that now. But now we do it together on the odd occasion. So we're still, you know, moving forwards with it.
I think that walk and talk, I do some walk and talks with coaching. It's a good space to be, you know, to get yourself out there. I think you was doing a video today when you was walking down the garden, was it?
Yes,
Was it yesterday?
Yes. I mean, I quite often do that, but I did one today, which was actually it's something I was posting on social media, and it was 5 tips for people for improving their sleep. Because, as I say, if we don't sleep properly, it impacts literally everything that we do in so many ways. So those 5 tips was how to actually help them to sleep better at night, and how to actually prepare for that. And obviously the biggest one that I'm going to say right now, because I'm sure that's one of the things that you're going to ask, is switching off technology. We have technology on so often in our lives. And, you know, notifications, constant, that affirmation, or reading messages or emails, which is putting us in a constant state of anxiety.
I'm really bad on TikTok. I always have a go at my daughter, but I'm really bad on it. I sit there, Sham's like, been there for 40 minutes. What have you been watching? It's just crap.
Nothing.
It's addictive. It is bad. I've taken a lot of social media off mine to manage it. But it's just clearing up that space. So if someone wants to work with you, if we move on to like an ask, who is it that if someone's going to contact you, is it an individual? Is it a company? How would someone come on and work with you? And
so it's twofold, actually. So on the one side, I do go into companies and I run workshops with them. So it's actually helping with their sort of well-being and their teams, and trying to actually create this holistic environment, which is a much healthier place to be in, to work with each other. And also, you know, alongside that is giving them sort of tools and strategies to help them to manage things in a much better way or escape it. But when they're actually working together, it makes it much better. The other side of it is, as individuals, I do one-to-ones, but I also do one-to-many, because what I've often found, and I know that you with yourself, is that when you do things as workshops, I do like live Zoom training. So let's just put this in context, take a step back. The program that I have, there is access to program training material, which is small snippets of videos of modules. So they do it as sort of 3 to, say, 5-7 minutes sort of snippets of videos in each module, which means they can do it in their own time. And as they're going through each of the steps in the process, that means that they can sort of develop as they go through. But there's also weekly sessions, which is done one-to-many. And with those one-to-many, quite often I find that it's a preference, because the problem we most have is that we think that we're alone and we're the only one that's experiencing the problems we have. So when you're in a team environment and you start talking about it, you get those moments, like, oh, that's happening.
I'm not unique.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. It's
Yeah.
not just me that's
Yeah.
having it. And in fact, I've actually done it with teams where I've had sort of directors within the same team, which I happen to know as well, where you see them, they show up as these sort of stalwart characters, super strong, really,
Yeah.
really, good in the way they're doing it. I mean, even me, everybody would go, oh, nothing bothers you,
Yeah.
nothing phases you at all. When inside, you're literally
Yeah.
dying inside
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes.
yeah.
But that imposter, the mask is going on as well, nothing to see here. And when you've gone through those exercises and they start having conversations and they go, really? That's happening to you too? I didn't realise that's what you was doing. But the good thing is it's then started creating that vulnerable environment where they go, all right, okay then, so that's happening to you, that happens
And
to
they
me.
can
So
share.
they can share, they can help each other, they can support each other. But the same thing works when you're on like the live Zooms or when you do workshops. When people are talking together, it gives them that feeling that actually I'm not alone.
So that was why I messed up on the mindset reset you come on with the agenda, just to make you feel better. So this could be vulnerable. That was exactly why I did it. So that's why I do it on purpose.
Yeah, that's it. Or I'm not introducing everybody at the beginning.
All right.
No, I thought that was great.
But that is when you talk about, like, the first thing I talk about is self-abuse. When you start to unpack that, people that you think don't suffer with it start admitting stuff that they've got, narrative they've got going on their heads, and you realise that everyone does it, and everyone suffers with it.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, again, where people can be open to this, because I think there is a stigma around the sort of work, and stepping into that, willingness to step in to that, to own and accept and reach out and ask, what is it about? Can I chat about it? And inquire. So anyone that's got a business, or that's interested in the stuff you've said, they can come and give you a call.
Yeah. So
We'll put the details in the link.
Put the details. And so there's two ways. So some people obviously would like to sort of contact me through, either through WhatsApp or like mobile phone, or I've got an email address, or the other thing I'll share with you is like my Calendly. So if someone wants to book an appointment with me and just have an initial discussion just for 20 minutes, just to find out what it is that I do, or from my side of it, it's really trying to find out what it is that you need, why you need it, what's important to you, because so often people say, are telling you what you need, and that's not right. It's about you telling us what it is that you need, and then from them we can and say, well, this is what's right for you, and this is how we can help you, because that's the best way for it. And trying to sort of know and understand each other, because my belief is that I could give you all the tools and strategies in the world, but if we're not a fit, we're not going to be able to work together, then you're not going to believe in what it is that I'm actually going to be teaching you with. So both sides, we have to be able to work together and have the right
And
sort of
those
connection.
20 minutes, those initial calls are free.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So is there anything that I've missed? Anything else you want to ask Sheppy?
So, I mean, for me, I think one of the things is other than sort of, organisations where they feel it might help and individuals, is that if there are sort of, in terms of within the community, groups where you think it would be good to help others, like the parish council did for Minster, if there are other ones where you think it was there. I know also there's, say, like some mental health groups that are on the islands or something like that, where you think, do you know what, I think this would be really useful. Then obviously I would like to have a way that I can give back in the community so we can work together and make things happen.
So one of the things that I'll plug is we're trying to do, we was meant to have our first meet today, is a funding buddy system where we sit with, so we're going to do it with Thundy in the church on getting funding for projects, so like the podcast, and like those programs that can be ran. So anyone that wants to get on board and give us a hand to try and create it, because I think with if we can get good at funding and helping, the parish councils and or local charities create the funding. There's a lot of people and businesses and groups that would give back to help develop the community.
Yeah.
And if we can support it in all the cogs with some money or some fundraising events, then I think that would be good. And all deemed around the idea of this podcast is to help cultivate and make life on Sheppey better. So
and ultimately, I mean, what better thing that we can have is on the island is that I know there's so many areas within the island where there are individuals that feel that they're never going to move forwards, and they have a right to move forwards, and they should be able to move forwards. And if we can take them that one step further, then that's great. Because I mean, my mission in my life is if I can see the light shine at least one person's eyes every single day, when they've had that sort of eureka moment and they can turn their dream into reality, I mean, what better thing to do?
I think we're going to wrap it on that. That's good. Cheers, Keely.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on Simply Sheppey.
Yeah, thank you.